She texted after a year away. I've had my fun. Now I'm ready to be a wife again. Then went ghost white when she saw who opened my door. I still remember the moment that notification appeared on my phone. I was sitting on my couch in the dim glow of the TV, half watching some home renovation show I wasn't really paying attention to. Life had finally settled into something calm, something stable, something that didn't make my stomach twist every time I thought about the past. And then, her name lit up like a ghost resurrecting itself. My wife, my vanished-for-a-year wife, Emily, the same woman who'd walked out of our 24-year marriage like it was something she could shrug off like a jacket she didn't feel like wearing anymore. The same woman who left a sticky note on our bathroom mirror that said, I need to find myself. Don't wait up, smiley face, like she was heading out for a yoga retreat instead of disappearing from our family, our life, and our joint bank account. A note, a goddamn smiley face. I was standing there holding that note the morning she left, staring at the empty space where her clothes used to be, at the bathroom counter where her makeup bag had sat for years. My name is Daniel Hughes. I'm 49 years old, own a small chain of car repair shops across western Pennsylvania, and I used to think my life was solid, predictable, not perfect, but lived in comfortable like an old pair of boots. Emily and I had settled into a routine over the years. We weren't lovey-dovey anymore, but I thought we still had something. Turns out the only thing we had was a shared checking account she drained for $62,000 3 days before she bolted. I found that out after I called her over and over 30, 40 times, leaving voicemails that swung between fear, anger, bargaining, everything except acceptance. By day 2, her number was disconnected. The last breadcrumb she left behind was that stupid note. And what made everything worse was that our kids, Tyler, 26, and Naomi, 24, clearly knew something they weren't telling me. When I called them, panicked, they treated me like I was the one causing problems. Dad, just give Mom some space. Tyler snapped. You're making this worse. Worse than your mom vanishing like dust in the night? Worse than draining our savings? Worse than leaving behind nothing except a post, like she was quitting a part-time job? At first, I blamed myself. I walked around our house in a fog, replaying the last few months, searching for warning signs. Did I miss something? Did she seem unhappy? Did she seem distant? Did she act strange? How did I not see my own life falling apart right in front of me? I felt like a fool, a blind, oblivious fool. For weeks, the house felt like a crime scene. Every room held a ghost. I barely slept, barely ate. I walked from room to room like I was hoping Emily would just step out from behind a doorway and say, just kidding, and the nightmare would be over. I took time off work, told my general manager I had a family emergency, and just sat there in silence while my life unraveled. It wasn't until week for that something shifted, or rather, someone shifted it. Her name was Mar Bennett, my new neighbor who'd moved 2 houses down that march. A nurse who worked nights. Someone I'd waved out of courtesy, but never actually talked to. One afternoon, she knocked on my door holding a plate of slightly overbaked brownies and said, I made too many. Figured you could help me get rid of them. Her smile wasn't forced. Her eyes weren't pitying. She was normal, grounded, warm in a way that felt safe rather than invasive. I ended up inviting her in. We talked for hours. About nothing and everything. Life, work, grief, stupid things we like watching on TV. She made me laugh, a real laugh, not the fake polite kind I've been giving everyone who asked if I was doing okay. Those brownies might have been a little burnt, but they were the first thing I'd eaten in days that didn't taste like cardboard. After that, Mara started checking in sometimes. Not too much, never intrusive. She had this instinctive understanding of when I needed silence and when I needed someone to break it. Over time, she became the first person I didn't feel broken around. One night, after we talked on the back deck until the sun went down, she told me something that shocked me. I was your dad's ICU nurse, she admitted quietly. 3 years ago, in his last week. I stared at her. I hadn't recognized her. There were so many nurses then, and that week was a blur of grief and exhaustion. But she remembered me. She remembered my dad. She remembered the stories he'd told about me, about the business, about our family. She said she hadn't known how to tell me when she moved in, that it felt weird, like fate pushing two people back into the same orbit. But she didn't want to build anything real on a lie. That word, real, shook something inside me. Months passed. Slowly, painfully, beautifully, I came back to life. Mara became my friend, then something more. She brought me back to myself in ways I didn't know I needed. She never pushed, never asked for more than I could give at the time. She just showed up, and I started showing up too. We fell into something real, quiet, steady, healing. The kind of love that grows in the cracks after an earthquake. And then one fall evening, Mara's hand shaking, she showed me a pregnancy test with 2 pink lines on it. My heart didn't drop. It didn't panic. It expanded. At 49, I was about to be a father again. And for the first time in years, I felt joy. Pure, uncomplicated joy. We started planning quietly. Doctor appointments. Baby names. Turning my unused guest room into a nursery. It felt like a second chance at a life I didn't even know I still wanted. Then, almost a year to the day Emily disappeared, she texted, "I've had my fun. Now I'm ready to be a wife again." Like she'd gone on a girls' weekend and was ready to come home. Like I was supposed to be waiting on the porch with flowers. More texts followed. "I made mistakes. The kids want us back together. I'll be home tomorrow. And then we can pretend none of this happened." Pretend? I showed Mara the text. She went pale. "You need to call your lawyer," she whispered. And she was right. I met with my attorney the next morning. Hired a private investigator, too. I wasn't letting Emily gaslight her way back into my life. And what came back from the investigator made my stomach turn. Photos of Emily with different men across multiple states. Hotel receipts. Vacation stays. Transaction from restaurants and bars. She hadn't been finding herself. She'd been doing a relationship tour funded by the money she stole from our joint savings. And the cherry on top? Her Miami boyfriend had dumped her, and she spent her last dollar before crawling back. 3 days later, 8 a.m. Saturday morning, violent knocking rattled my front door. I didn't move. Mara, wearing one of my shirts and holding her 4-month baby bump, walked down the stairs, calm as ever. "Want me to get it?" she asked softly. I nodded. She opened the door. Emily stood there, hair messy, eyes wild, desperation leaking off her like sweat, ready to march in with all her entitlement. But then she saw Mara, saw the baby bump, saw me standing behind her, and her entire face drained white, completely white. Who is she?" Emily stammered. Mara smiled politely. "I'm his girlfriend, and you need to leave." Then she closed the door. Just like that. Emily screamed outside for minutes, pounding on the door, threatening divorce attorneys, threatening to destroy me, threatening anything she thought would get a reaction. It didn't. I filed for divorce that afternoon. The court battle was brutal, but for her, she tried every angle, claimed emotional abandonment, claimed I owed her alimony, claimed half my business. The judge, thank God for Judge Everett, looked her dead in the eyes and said, "Ma'am, you disappeared for a year after withdrawing marital funds. You have no case." And just like that, Emily's house of cards collapsed. My daughter Naomi eventually came around. She apologized through tears, admitting Emily had manipulated both kids, painted me as cold and uncaring, that she convinced them she left because I didn't love her. Tyler wasn't so quick to come back. He defended his mother until his wife discovered he'd been secretly sending Emily money behind her back. That marriage is now rocky, to put it lightly. When our daughter, Lucy Mara Hughes, was born this February, I felt something I never felt with my first 2 kids. Not because I didn't love them, but because back then I was too young, too stressed, too buried in work to appreciate fatherhood. But now, I savor every midnight feeding, every tiny sigh, every sleepy smile. Mara and I got married 3 months later in my backyard. Small ceremony. Naomi stood with Mara as her maid of honor. My life felt full again, complete in a way I never expected. And then, 6 months later, I ran into Emily at the grocery store. She looked older, tired, worn down by life in a way that had nothing to do with age. She walked up slowly. "Congratulations," she said quietly, staring at Lucy in her carrier. "She's beautiful." "Thank you," I said. "Take care of yourself, Emily." And I meant it. I wasn't angry anymore. Just done. Truly, finally done. As I walked away, I realized something. If Emily hadn't left, if she hadn't destroyed everything, I never would have rebuilt a life that actually made me happy. I wouldn't have Mara. I wouldn't have Lucy. I wouldn't know what real love feels like. Sometimes the worst thing that ever happens to you sets you free in ways you never saw coming. And for the first time in years, my life feels like it's finally mine.